Tris chooses to go outside of Chicago because A, she feels like it's in her destiny, and B, Chicago can't offer her what it used to be able to offer her. She doesn't have family anymore. Her brother betrayed her. She has 4, but politically and socially and economically, the entire system is breaking down. It's a completely different organism. It has its own political leaders. It's a full-blown running society. And I think when Tris and Four enter, they're a little bit hesitant of it, and yet also very keen on the luxuries that come with a world that's not war-torn, and come with a world that's functioning and has access to things that they didn't have access to in Chicago. The pure are people who are genetically pure, meaning that their genes have not been altered by scientists in a lab. And the damaged are people whose genes, whether it was from their direct parents or their ancestors, their genes have been manipulated by genetic engineering. This movie is interesting because Tris and Four both go their own directions, and they're very much sort of out of contact and out of communication with one another. Tris is up in the bureau with David, and Four is on the floor in the fringe with the military of the bureau. And they both see different sides of who this David person is, and that creates distance between them because Four has one idea and Tris has another idea, and they can't seem to come to an agreement. The new cast, it was really exciting. I had a lot of scenes with Bill Skarsgård, who's incredibly talented, and he has sort of this really great old soul, classic way about him for being so young. And Nadia Hilker, who's very mysterious and beautiful and incredibly talented as well. And then Andy Bean, who plays Ramit, who's sort of, you can't quite tell any of these new characters whether they're good or guys or bad guys, whether they're antagonists or protagonists. And then Jeff Daniels, who plays David, his character is quite mysterious as well because you don't really know what he's vying for, like what drives his vision and what drives his purpose. Audiences can expect just as much action as they've seen in Divergent and Insurgent. The opening of this film is quite large in scope and in range. You see the characters going over the wall, and that's a large running sequence. And the action of getting up and over the wall and then rock climbing back down the bottom of it and exploring the fringe.
You start the movie kind of in the same place as you ended the last movie, really. It's Janine, who is Kate Winslet's character, is dead, and they are dealing with the ramifications of the end of a civil war, essentially. And there's a trial, and people are being put on trial that worked with Erudite and worked with Janine's character, and they are being, in a way, executed for crimes. Meanwhile, Four and Tris are debating and deciding what to do next, and they feel like Chicago has reached a place where it can't come back from, and the insanity is continuing with these executions. So they're going to leave, and they're going to see what's outside the wall because they've seen this message. So they set out a plan to do so, and it's quite a complex one. But they have to get over the wall, and people don't want them to leave. Let's just say so. It's and then it begins a whole complex sequence, and they leave the city and they discover what's outside of Chicago. It's difficult because not only is it a physical wall that they have to, it's quite impressive when you see it. It's a humongous wall, and they have no idea what is outside. But also logistically, they have to get over it, and they have accomplices, other characters in the story. But it's also symbolic, it's leaving everything that they know with very little to help them along the way. it's a wasteland. It's obviously a place that has suffered some kind of chemical warfare. And it appears that there is nothing there, so suddenly they feel like they have kind of gone down a rabbit hole that they can't return from. And then suddenly the bureau opens up, and it's a completely different world beyond any of their expectations. David's played by Jeff Daniels, and he is this new, quiet but charismatic presence in their lives, and he is essentially the kind of leader or the person who runs the bureau. 4 is inherently a little, pessimistic, a little critical of him. He looks around and he sees another form of control. He's someone who's grown up in that very much so, and he's been damaged by it at all stages of his life. And again, that's his personality. He's more someone who is measured and a little bit, he's not going to jump on the train quite so easily, whereas Tris is very hopeful, and she feels like this is what she's been searching for, and this is the kind of the missing piece to her questioning for all her life, so she's quite embracive of it. Some of the fun of the movie is discovering this new world and discovering a new technology, and 4 has a chance to use some of the weapons that they have and they're able to use, and he's quite impressed by them. And being, a kind of a consummate soldier, I guess, he has a chance to kind of revel in that in quite a fun way. I think their biggest challenge now is the two kind of opposite sides of their personalities, and that's, again, 4's pessimism and his closedness, but it leads him to be very measured and thoughtful about trusting someone, and Tris's impulsiveness and kind of natural, hopeful energy, which in some ways is good, but in some ways can get into trouble, and they butt heads and they go their separate ways for a section in the movie, and I like that conflict. I think it's good to have a little conflict between them because it reflects reality.
Oggi ho una curiosità per voi sulla serie Divergent. Come i grandi fan della saga probabilmente già sanno, il terzo capitolo della serie, e parlo di Allegiant, sarà diviso in 2 parti. È una tecnica spesso usata nel caso dei libri per ragazzi che hanno dato origine alle saghe cinematografiche, no? Il capitolo finale viene suddiviso in 2 parti. L'abbiamo visto con Harry Potter, con Twilight o Hunger Games. In questo caso però per la prima volta mancherà il sottotitolo parte prima nel titolo. Cioè il titolo è semplicemente Allegiant e non Allegiant parte prima, e la campagna pubblicitaria del film non suggerisce che ci sia anche una seconda parte. Noi sappiamo che Allegiant si concentrerà sulla prima parte del libro, invece Ascendant, che uscirà negli Stati Uniti a giugno del 2017, sarà basato sulla seconda. Tanti spettatori però che non lo sanno potrebbero rimanere un po' delusi quando vedranno Allegiant finire magari con la classica scena di loro appesi a un dirupo e poi la scritta all'improvviso al prossimo episodio. Quindi io vi ho avvisati, Fatemi sapere se siete fan della saga e quale dei capitoli vi è piaciuto di più. Ciao, al prossimo video!